Labour continues its war on free speech by making employers liable for members of their staff feeling offended. So if you feel offended by your boss telling you off or something, you can fucking complain, right? Any theatre, any theatre under the protection of law will be able to refuse edgy performers.
Jim Davidson, my friend, the controversial comedian, although I don't find him controversial, I just think that he talks common sense. Eunice, he is becoming one of, I genuinely believe this, one of the sharpest opponents of this Labour government, because you know Jim Davidson has a huge following. Sure, he might be cancelled by the mainstream media, but that doesn't matter now because he has his own Ustream platform. And he has decided to take on Labour directly and take on Keir Starmer directly in the way that only he knows how over this issue of the crackdown on free speech. Have a look at that.
Let's go on about this Labour Party lot. Have you ever known that people fuck up so much? It's a joke, but you know, this is it's a strange old time that we're going through. They want to cut down on free speech, and so they'll bring out a law. Anyone that says anything about anyone, anywhere, in the workplace, if you say something that causes offence, you can be nicked for it. You can. So what if someone that doesn't like me, and there's a few, and don't you worry about that. I've seen on some of the comments, you know, when it was advertising the stand-up show that's on now, on here. Oh, a dinosaur, I thought he was fucking dead, never been funny, all that. I answer them back, why don't you fuck off? I do all that and start arguing with these people. I'm not as witty as James Blunt. And they annoy me, all these dodgy people that do that. And why watch me in the first place? If, oh, he's a dinosaur, never was funny, he's just a thug. Bloody cheek, isn't it? So any of them can now complain and say, I was offended by what he said, so much more that it's affected my mental illness. I've got ADHD, PSD, PF, MGB, GT, and so that's it. It's daft.
But he wasn't finished there. He wasn't finished there.
Labour continues its war on free speech by making employers liable for members of their staff feeling offended. So if you feel offended by your boss telling you off or something, you can fucking complain, right? Any theatre, any theatre under the protection of law will be able to refuse edgy performers, and she's put in brackets like you, Jim. You know, I'm not edgy. In case a member of their staff gets the ump, right? And they're protected by law. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's anyone that's in a pub and tells a dirty joke or says something can be reported for upsetting the barman. What the fucking hell has happened here? Do you know what? Sometimes when I get to a theatre and I do the sound check and I see during the sound check the front of house manager is giving the brief to the volunteers, you know, the usherettes and people like that. And I always go up to them and say, look, and they're not nice little old ladies, aren't they, from the Women's Institute? They look a bit like that. And they say, I'm ever so sorry about what you're going to hear. Oh, don't worry about us. No, I say it's quite filthy. You're probably best when I'm on to wait outside. At least they've been warned, but they all flock in. They all love it.
But Eunice, he is so right to be calling out Labour, isn't he? Because it is this creeping, dystopian, authoritarian move to destroy free speech. I mean, they've already done it on universities, Eunice. That's already happened immediately under the Labour government by getting rid of the free speech bill. Now it moves to the workplaces. This is insidious.
It is 100%. And Ricky Gervais, the famous comedian,
I love him.
He has a famous line about this. And he says, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. And I want to get this through people's skull. Just because you're offended by something doesn't put you in the right, and who decides what's offensive? Who decides what's true? Who decides what can cause offense or what can upset us? Because people are offended by anything nowadays. So you can literally say anything and someone somewhere would be offended. So just because someone's offended, does that mean you have to lose your job or go to prison? And what if you want to... So I take it back to the argument that the MP was making about Bednock. What if you say, well, men and women are equal, but they're not the same? You know, biologically speaking, they have different needs. You know, they go through different phases. You know, men are probably better at certain things, women are probably better at other things. And this is all scientifically proven. Is that somehow a sexist comment? And should you be fired for making that kind of comment? Or, you know, I spoke about, you know, the gender madness of LGBTQ. I do not believe there's 100 different genders. I believe there's only 2 genders. I mean, you can be gay, you can be lesbian, you can be bisexual, but this whole idea of LGBTQ and gender fluid, in my opinion, is just nonsense. So is that somehow homophobic to say that or think that, even though it's supported by science? So it's a very slippery slope that we're going down, you know? Free speech is one of the pillars of democracy, is one of the pillars of the first world. We are slowly deteriorating to become a third world. And they're using kindness and understanding, which is the most manipulative way to, you know, take free speech away from people. And we can see it happen under the Labour government. And us as people should stand up to this. We should not give in. We should keep speaking. We should protect platforms such as X. You should carry on what you're doing, and I will carry on what you're doing. And we are the resistance to this tyrannical government.
We are, and you're so right, by the way, Eunice, to raise hiding behind the Be Kind movement, because I always think of Jacinda Ardern, who is tyrannical, actually, and proved that she was tyrannical during COVID, but she says, I just want to spread kindness. At the same time, she does the absolute opposite of kindness in terms of her policy, while telling the population, we are your only source of truth. Well, actually, no government should be our source of truth. Our job is to challenge the government, is to challenge Keir Starmer. And that means actually sometimes not wanting political opponents to be locked up for free speech. But look, absolutely love having you here.
It's the devouring mother complex. I mean, in psychological terms, it's called the devouring mother complex, where you try to overprotect your children to the point of damaging them, because you don't let them free to go out and adventure, to go out and, you know, make mistakes so they can grow as people. And we have a nanny state, basically. Or maybe we have a tyrannical state pretending to be a nanny state.
Yes. I think that's what it is, to be honest. And I think more and more of that is going to be proven over the next few months. But look, so important that we have young voices like you on the scene. Yunus Saragiani, who is a contributor for Reason UK, but also a YouTuber. I'm going to put the link to his YouTube in our show notes. I'm a subscriber and I really recommend that you should be too. But Yunus, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Cheers.
And now it's time for the Uncancelled interview. And I am absolutely delighted today to be joined by Dr. Alka Seagal Cuthbert. She is the director of Don't Divide Us, as well as an educator, academic, author, and campaigner. I heard her speak very recently at the 3rd anniversary of the Together Declaration and was incredibly impressed. She believes passionately in the essential importance of impartiality in education and this is the important thing, as a prerequisite for the civilized conversations necessary for democracy to flourish. So Dr. Alka, so great to have you on the show. I absolutely love what you're doing with Don't Divide Us. But actually, it's the most important day for you to be here, really, because we see Lucy Connolly jailed for 2.5 years, a housewife. Now, based on what you say, I think you would agree that her post on X was definitely not a civilized conversation. It was a post that was made in a lot of anger, in the heat of the moment after what happened at the Southport community, with the slaughtering of the 3 young girls at the Taylor Swift dance class. But how do you feel about her being put behind bars for 2.5 years when she's a housewife with no previous convictions, a carer to her 12-year-old daughter, and at the same time, we see so many hardened criminals on the streets?
Well, thank you, Dan. Thank you for your kind words and for inviting me. I think it's wrong. It's I think imprisoning, putting people behind bars, criminalising hate, online hate, and she's not the only one. There have been many others as well. It's kind of fundamentally flawed, really, because, you know, feeling hate is part of being human. So, you know, like you, I don't particularly like well, in fact, no, more than that. I really dislike what she said. I don't agree with it. I think it's pretty disgusting. But the thing is, here's the thing about being part of a civilized country or a civilized way of governing things, is that we can tolerate what we hate, right? We do
Yes.
not. Our response to what we don't like is a civilized response to say exactly what we're saying now, but to say it is not criminal, right? It was not incitement. It nowhere met the bar of which is a different set of laws.
Yes. Yeah, she wasn't directly saying, go to this address, here's the name of the person, kill this person. She was using very inartful wording to express her anger about the situation. But first, it is the best time of year, right, guys? Football is back. We're talking Premier League in the UK and in the US, NFL Sundays and college football Saturdays. With that comes the glorious grind of fantasy football lineups where your inner manager comes alive, setting the perfect fantasy roster, screaming at your TV and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you the hero or the guy on the bench that everyone ridicules in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench, because let's be honest, no one wants to fumble their grooming routine. So this is where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down below with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of those rogue ear and nose hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0, this is the lineup that'll keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. It will make you feel clean, confident, and ready to dominate your fantasy league. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Groin and Body Hair Trimmer is the franchise player of your grooming roster with precise trimming capabilities. It's efficient, reliable, and gets the job done without fumbling. Whether it's for date night, a weekend tailgate, or just everyday grooming, this is the tool you want on your squad. Now, no one wants a surprise nose or ear hair making a guest appearance on game day, do they? So the Weed Whacker 2.0 handles those details like a pro, keeping you neat and ready to go. No missed tackles in your grooming game. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra also comes with 2 free gifts today: the Boxers 2.0 Midnight Bravo and the Shed 2.0 Toiletry Bag, premium gear to ensure you're always ready for action, whether at home or on the road. So join the over 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. That's www.manscaped.com. Use the code Outspoken and you'll get 20% off your entire order and free shipping. Trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season. So 20% off and free shipping if you enter Outspoken as the code at checkout at manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Dan, is that, we've seen about 200 odd, I think, arrests very swiftly ensuing from the riots. They've been
400 now. 400 jail.
Really? Well, I think, last I had a quick peek at the kind of horror, I thought rather nasty films that the police were putting out, kind of reminded me of sort of show trials. Meanwhile, the 4 people from Manchester Airport who didn't just say hateful things, they kind of, knocked police women to the ground, are out on bail, right? So,
well, they actually haven't even been arrested yet. That's the extraordinary thing.
I know. I mean, we all understand that, we want due justice to be done. There are procedures to be followed, but come on, at least let us know exactly what state of play is. All we know is that they're out, they're out on bail.
Well, it's two-tier justice, isn't it? And it really makes me think hard, and this is why I love the name of your organisation, Don't Divide Us. Because isn't the problem, Alka, that race divisions are now being weaponized to the point where actually it's starting to encourage racism that wasn't there?
I really think so. I think we're seeing the re-racialization of our culture and our society. We're seeing it in schools. We're seeing, I've had at least 2 people this week contact me saying they're very puzzled, upset, and annoyed that their children's schools are organising racially segregated events. Right? What's that about?
So what? So if you're white, you can't go, or is it specifically for black students or Asian students? What? How does that work?
I mean, I don't know the details, but what has happened in one of the places is that there is an outing being arranged for the school, but it's only available to ethnic minority
So it's like
children.
these blackout performances where white people are
Yes. I mean,
discouraged from
it's all,
attending.
justified under the rubric of, safe spaces, giving space for people. But these are children, and that is racial thinking, and it's racism, right? It's simply not. You would think of in schools of all places with young children, that is a particularly pernicious thing to be doing, because you're saying right from the get-go, you can't actually form the bonds with your fellow people online, due to what you are, your character, your personality, what you say, what you do, how you treat people. But all of that has got to be first of all foremost seen through your skin color. I mean, that I don't, that to me, that's racism. That's racist thinking.
It really is. It really, really is. And then you have, well, I want to show you this article in The Guardian, this headline in The Guardian. And this is quite an extraordinary explanation as to why the riots took place, Dr. Alka. So the headline says, "Make Black History Mandatory in England to Counter Hatred, urges campaigner." And this is Lavinia Stennett, who founded the Black Curriculum. And she believes that one of the reasons that the so-called riots broke out in England and Northern Ireland is because Black History Month only lasts for a month. And she says it needs to be taught all year round. What did you make of her intervention?
Two things really, Dan. First of all, I think it is putting the cart before the horse, because she's saying it's lack of race thinking being taught in schools that is the problem, whereas I actually think that it's the presence of so much racialization of the curriculum, and encouraging teachers to continually be aware of racism, unconscious bias, etc., that I think is encouraging the kind of the silencing of people being able to speak, the chilling of people being able to speak and communicate freely, that is adding to the frustration that may well have contributed to the riot. So we don't need more of it; we need less of it, right? And then the second thing I think about, especially people. Well, I don't think Lavinia Stennett has actually ever been a teacher or an educator. And I think she set up this company after she did her degree at ZOAS that I don't believe was in anything to do with education. But this is like the justifying the kind of the legitimacy of expert cliques. Like racism is something so complicated, and that you might all be racist and not even be aware of it. So we, the experts, need to make you aware of it. So it's very anti-democratic. And I mean, it's patronizing. It should not be in schools.
No, it shouldn't be. I mean, I am the generation, Dr. Alka, that was brought up to believe in a colorblind society. And the thing is, I know that if you're taught in school to believe in a colorblind society, and it doesn't matter what color your classmates are, actually, it's the best way to discourage racism, which I never even thought about, to be honest, probably in any depth until the Black Lives Matter movement started to explode. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.